Tarek stepped off the hovercraft, his boots crunching against the broken stones of the storm ruins. The sky above was dark and heavy, filled with clouds that crackled with distant lightning. Wind swept across the jagged towers, carrying the scent of rain and the strange tang of the ruins' ancient metals. Tarek had traveled far to reach this place. He had heard stories of the ruins' ancient structures that had survived countless storms, built by a civilization long gone. Most explorers avoided it, calling it too dangerous. But Tarek was curious, driven by the thrill of discovery and the hope of understanding the secrets hidden within. As he walked through the shattered archways, he noticed how the storm seemed almost alive. Every gust seemed to push him back, testing his resolve. His eyes moved over the intricate carvings on the stones, symbols that shimmered faintly in the dim light. He knelt, brushing his fingers over one of the carvings. It was delicate, almost like it was telling a story. Tarek whispered to himself, "These ruins, they survived everything." A crack of lightning lit the sky, momentarily illuminating the tall, leaning towers, and he felt both awe and fear. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the distance. Tarek froze. He was not alone. Out of the swirling wind and rain stepped a figure, an alien, humanoid but with skin that shimmered slightly, reflecting the storm's light. She wore protective clothing with intricate patterns, and her eyes, bright and intelligent, focused on him immediately. "Who are you?" Tarek called out, raising a hand to shield his face from the wind. The alien woman held up her hands in a gesture of peace. "I am Myra," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I am here to study the ruins." Tarek studied her carefully. He could tell she was skilled, her movements were precise, confident. "I am Tarek. I came to explore these ruins. It is dangerous here." Myra nodded. "I know. That is why I carry my equipment." "And you?" "I carry what I can," Tarek admitted, patting the satchel on his back. "But the storms here are strong. They can change the ruins in an instant." As if to prove her words, a sudden gust of wind swept through the courtyard, tossing loose stones and debris in all directions. Tarek stumbled, barely keeping his footing. Myra moved instantly, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward a nearby wall. They pressed together against the stone as the wind roared past. Heart racing, Tarek looked at her. "Thank you," he said, trying to catch his breath. Myra's eyes softened, though she kept her voice steady. "You must learn quickly. The storm does not forgive mistakes." They spent the next hour walking through the ruins carefully. Tarek noticed how Myra moved with ease, climbing broken steps and crossing unstable bridges without hesitation. He admired her skill, realizing that surviving here required more than courage, it required knowledge and instinct. At one point, they stopped at a collapsed tower. Tarek squinted, imagining what the structure must have looked like centuries ago. "These ruins are incredible," he said. "I have never seen anything like them." Myra crouched beside him, examining a strange, glowing symbol on the stones. "They were built to last," she said softly. "To withstand storms. And perhaps to test those who enter." Tarek laughed quietly. "I think I am being tested right now." Myra looked at him, a small smile forming on her lips. "Then you are passing, for now." As the wind began to die down slightly, Tarek realized he felt something he hadn't expected. In the midst of danger and uncertainty, he felt a sense of companionship, a spark of connection with this alien who seemed so different, yet somehow understandable. He knew they would have to rely on each other if they were to survive this place, and that thought both thrilled and scared him. The sun, hidden behind storm clouds, sent a faint ray of light across the ruins. It illuminated the broken towers, the jagged walls, and the figures of Tarek and Myra standing side by side. For a brief moment, the ruins seemed peaceful, almost welcoming. But Tarek knew the storm could return at any moment, and when it did, he would need all his courage and Myra's skill to face what lay ahead. And so, in the heart of the storm ruins, two unlikely companions began a journey that would test their limits, their trust, and, perhaps, their hearts. The storm had passed, but the ruins still hummed with a strange energy. Tarek and Myra moved carefully among the broken towers and shattered walls, each step echoing in the empty spaces. Though the wind had quieted, small gusts still swept through the corridors, rattling loose stones and sending a shiver across Tarek's shoulders. He kept his eyes on Myra as she led the way, her movements sure and steady, like she belonged in this place. "Where do you think we should go first?" Tarek asked, brushing dust from his sleeve. Myra paused, looking at a partially collapsed archway. "There," she said, pointing toward a long hallway with glowing symbols along the walls. "I saw markings like these from a distance. They might lead to something important." Tarek nodded. He had been trained to explore carefully, but Myra's confidence gave him a sense of reassurance he did not expect. Together, they stepped into the hallway. The light from the symbols pulsed softly, giving the space a gentle glow. The air smelled of ozone and wet stone. Tarek traced a finger along one of the carvings. It felt smooth, almost alive, and he shivered. "These markings, they tell a story," Myra said quietly. She knelt beside a larger symbol, running her fingers over its grooves. "I do not understand all of it yet, but it seems to speak about creation and protection. Whoever built these ruins wanted people to survive here, even through storms." Tarek glanced at her, impressed. "You really know your history." Myra smiled faintly. "And you know engineering. Together, we might uncover more than either of us could alone." As they moved deeper into the ruins, the hallway opened into a large chamber. Broken machinery and scattered stones littered the floor. Tarek's eyes widened. This looks like a workshop," he said. "Maybe where the builders created these structures." Myra knelt beside a strange device, her hands moving over levers and panels. "It is old," she said, "but some parts are still active. We might be able to repair it." Tarek stepped closer. "Can you show me how?" Myra glanced at him, then nodded. "Carefully. These machines respond to precise movements. One wrong touch, and it could shut down completely. For hours, they work side by side." Tarek adjusted broken gears while Myra calibrated energy panels. When their hands accidentally brushed while reaching for the same tool, they froze for a moment, exchanging a quick glance before returning to their work. Neither spoke, but both felt a small, growing warmth. It was strange how quickly trust and something more was forming between them in such a dangerous place. Finally, with a soft hum, the device came to life. Panels lit up, and small platforms shifted into position. Tarek stepped back, smiling. "We did it." Myra nodded, her eyes bright with satisfaction. "Together," she said simply. A sudden sound made them both look up. Loose stones rattled as the ruins shifted, a reminder that the storm could return at any moment. "We should move before it picks up again," Myra said. They followed a narrow corridor to an open courtyard. Broken towers leaned over them, and small pools of water reflected the soft glow of the setting sun peeking through the clouds. Tarek wiped sweat from his brow, looking around in wonder. Even after the storm, these ruins are beautiful, he said. Myra smiled, watching his expression. They are alive in their own way. They change with each storm, just like we do. As they walked, they began to share stories about their lives. Tarek spoke of his home, his family, and why he had become an explorer. Myra shared tales of her people, their culture, and their love for knowledge. Though their worlds were very different, they found common ground in curiosity and courage. At one point, they stopped near a collapsed bridge. Tarek peered over the edge, noting how far it had fallen. "We will have to find another way," he said. Myra studied it, then looked at him. "We can make a temporary crossing," she said. "With some careful planning, we can move forward together." Tarek felt a surge of admiration. Myra's mind was as sharp as her reflexes. "I am glad you are here," he said softly. Myra glanced at him, her expression unreadable for a moment, then she nodded. "And I am glad you are here too." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the ruins. Tarek and Myra found a sheltered spot near a leaning tower to rest. They sat quietly, listening to the faint hum of the ruins and the distant rumble of the clouds above. In that quiet moment, the danger of the storms felt distant, replaced by a new, unspoken connection between them. The ruins had tested them, but Tarek realized that surviving here was no longer just about skill or courage, it was about trust, teamwork, and the growing bond between two unlikely companions. As night began to fall, they prepared to face whatever the storm ruins would show them next, together. The sun had disappeared completely, leaving the ruins bathed in the dim light of a distant moon. Tarek and Myra moved cautiously through a narrow corridor, the air heavy with the scent of wet stone and ozone. The ruins seemed to shift with every step, as though the storm that had passed earlier had left them unsettled. Tarek kept glancing around, feeling both excitement and unease. Suddenly, the walls trembled. A distant rumble grew louder and louder until it became clear, another storm was approaching. "We need shelter," Myra shouted, her voice firm but calm. She led Tarek toward a collapsed hall, where the roof still offered some protection. As they entered, loose stones tumbled down around them, and the wind howled through the broken walls. The storm was fierce, much stronger than the last. Tarek pressed his back against the wall, watching as lightning lit up the jagged towers outside. "It's coming fast," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Myra moved quickly, setting up protective barriers with small energy panels she carried. "Stay close," she instructed. "The wind can throw debris. These shields will help, but we must be careful." Tarek nodded, following her instructions. As he adjusted one of the panels, a gust of wind knocked him off balance. Myra reached out and grabbed his arm, holding him steady. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything else, the storm, the ruins, even their fear disappeared. Tarek felt a rush of something he could not name, and Myra's expression softened, though she quickly focused back on the task at hand. Hours passed. The storm raged outside, lightning flashing and thunder shaking the walls. Inside their small shelter, Tarek and Myra worked together to secure loose stones and reinforce the hall. Every now and then, they would exchange glances, sharing unspoken words. The danger forced them to rely on each other completely, and the trust between them grew stronger with every challenge. During a brief lull in the storm, Tarek crouched beside Myra to examine a fallen piece of machinery. "Do you think this could still work?" he asked. Myra studied it, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns on the device. "Possibly," she said. "If we adjust the energy flow and repair the connection, it might activate. But it will take focus. One mistake, and it could fail. Tarek nodded. Then let's do it together. Side by side, they worked carefully. Tarek followed Myra's guidance, adjusting panels and aligning components, while Myra monitored the energy readings. Their hands occasionally brushed, and each time, a small spark seemed to pass between them. It was subtle but undeniable. The storm outside mirrored the tension and energy building inside the hall. Finally, with a soft hum, the device began to glow. Panels lit up, casting a gentle light across their faces. Tarek stepped back, smiling. We did it, he said, pride and relief in his voice. Myra smiled too, but it was quieter, almost shy. Together, she said. For a moment, they simply stood there, listening to the storm's distant roar, feeling the warmth of shared success. Then, a large gust shook the hall, rattling loose stones above them. Myra grabbed Tarek's hand instinctively, pulling him to safety. He looked at her, and the connection between them deepened more than trust, more than friendship. It was a sense of safety, comfort, and something new and exciting. As the night wore on, the storm finally began to fade. Lightning became less frequent, and the wind died down. Tarek and Myra stepped outside, the ruins now shimmering under the moonlight. Broken towers cast long shadows, and pools of rain reflected the glowing symbols etched into the stones. Tarek looked at Myra. We survived, he said, smiling tiredly. Myra nodded, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. Yes. And we worked together. That is what mattered. They walked quietly through the ruins, each step careful but filled with a growing sense of confidence. The storm had tested them, forced them to trust each other completely, and shown them that together, they could face anything. Tarek felt a warmth he had not expected, a feeling that the ruins themselves seemed to encourage the warmth of companionship, of partnership, of something more. As they reached a small courtyard, Tarek glanced at the ruins all around them. Broken, battered, yet full of life in their own strange way. These ruins, they are amazing, he said softly. Myra smiled. And dangerous, she replied lightly. But when we face them together, they are also rewarding. Tarek nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He realized that the ruins were more than a place of stone and storm, they were a place that could bring people together, forge bonds, and teach lessons in courage, trust, and connection. As they settled near a glowing crystal to rest, Tarek and Myra exchanged a quiet glance. They had survived the storm, but more importantly, they had discovered the strength in each other. And as the night stretched on, the ruins around them seemed less frightening and more alive, a place where two unlikely companions had begun to discover something extraordinary together. The ruins were quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of morning light. Tarek and Myra walked slowly through the courtyard, the events of the night still fresh in their minds. The storm had tested them, but it had also brought them closer. Now, with calm weather around them, they felt more confident to explore deeper into the ruins. Look at this, Myra said, pointing toward a partially hidden passage behind a leaning wall. Strange carvings lined the entrance, more intricate than anything they had seen so far. I think this was meant to be hidden. Maybe it leads to something important. Tarek examined the symbols carefully. They look like a story, he said. A history of the people who built these ruins, maybe. Together, they stepped through the passage. The air was cooler here, carrying a faint hum that seemed to come from deep within the stones. They moved slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile floor beneath them. Each step echoed softly, a reminder of the silence that had settled after the storm. At the end of the corridor, they found a large chamber. Broken machinery lay scattered across the floor, covered with dust and moss. In the center stood a tall pedestal with glowing symbols spiraling upward, as if reaching for the ceiling. Tarek felt a shiver of excitement. This could be the heart of the ruins, he whispered. Myra knelt beside the pedestal, her fingers tracing the glowing patterns. These symbols speak of unity, she said softly. They tell a story of people who work together, across worlds, to create something lasting. The ruins were not just buildings, they were a symbol of cooperation. Tarek moved closer, studying the pedestal. It is incredible, he said. They wanted this place to survive storms, time, everything. They wanted it to teach lessons to anyone who comes here. Myra smiled faintly. And it seems we are learning them, she said, glancing at him. We have faced the storms, helped each other, and grown stronger because of it. Tarek looked at her, a warmth spreading through him. Yes, we have, he said quietly. They spent hours examining the chamber. Myra's knowledge of alien engineering helped them understand the remaining devices, while Tarek's experience with human machinery allowed them to repair small panels and reconnect broken circuits. Slowly, they restored a part of the pedestal, and a protective dome of shimmering light rose around the chamber. The effect was mesmerizing. It seemed to shield them from the harsh winds that sometimes swept through the ruins. This is amazing, Tarek said, stepping back to admire their work. We actually made it work. Myra nodded, her eyes bright. Together, she said again, a small smile playing on her lips. As they explored further, they discovered more symbols and devices, each telling a part of the ruins' story. Tarek shared tales of human courage, of explorers who faced danger to discover the unknown. Myra explained her culture's love for balance and respect for knowledge, and how her people believed in learning from every challenge. They listened to each other, fascinated by their differences and similarities. At one point, Myra reached for a piece of broken machinery. Tarek moved to help, and their hands touched briefly. They looked at each other, and for a moment, the chamber seemed warmer, almost alive. Neither spoke, but the small connection was clear. It was more than trust, it was a growing bond that neither could ignore. Outside, the ruins were calm, but the memory of storms lingered in their minds. They realized that the challenges they faced were not just about survival, they were shaping their partnership, teaching them patience, teamwork, and understanding. Finally, they paused near the pedestal, both catching their breath. Tarek looked around the chamber, feeling a sense of wonder and gratitude. These ruins, they are incredible, he said softly. And so is the journey we are on together. Myra smiled, glancing at him with something tender in her eyes. The ruins show us what is possible when we work together, she said. And maybe, what is possible between two people who trust each other. Tarek felt his heart beat a little faster. He had faced storms, danger, and the unknown, but nothing compared to the feeling of connection he felt with Myra. They were no longer just companions in the ruins, they were partners, learning from each other and growing together. As the day drew to a close, Tarek and Myra stepped out into the soft light of the late afternoon. The ruins stretched around them, quiet and mysterious. They had uncovered secrets, repaired devices, and strengthened their bond. And though the storms could return at any moment, Tarek felt ready to face them because he would face them with Myra. The ruins had secrets to reveal, challenges to present, and lessons to teach. But for Tarek and Myra, the greatest discovery was not just the history of the ruins, it was the connection they had forged in the heart of danger, a bond that promised warmth and strength in the storms to come. The morning sun barely reached the edges of the ruins, casting long shadows across the broken towers. Tarek and Myra moved carefully through a wide courtyard, their attention focused on the strange symbols etched into the stones. The ruins were calm, but both of them knew that danger could arrive at any moment. After the storms and their discoveries, they had grown confident in their skills, but they also knew the ruins could be unpredictable. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed through the courtyard. Well, what do we have here?" Tarek froze and turned. A figure appeared at the far edge of the ruins, stepping confidently over broken stones. He was another explorer, tall and strong, carrying a pack of tools and equipment. His eyes flicked to Tarek and Myra with a calculating look. Myra stepped forward, her hands ready on her energy panels. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice firm. The man smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Name's Ralik," he said. "I've been tracking these ruins for months. And now I see you've found some of the secrets I was looking for. I think we should share them." Tarek tightened his grip on a metal bar nearby, ready to defend himself if needed. "We are not here to fight," he said cautiously. "We are exploring. These ruins belong to history, not to anyone who wants to take them for themselves." Ralik laughed. "History? No, history is only valuable if you can profit from it. Step aside, or I'll make you." Myra's eyes narrowed. "We will not allow that," she said. "These ruins are protected. You will not harm them or us." Ralik's expression hardened, and he moved closer. Tarek and Myra quickly assessed their options. The ruins were unstable, and a direct confrontation could be dangerous. But retreating would allow Ralik to claim their discoveries. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath them. Loose stones fell from the towers, and dust filled the air. Myra grabbed Tarek's arm. "We need to move carefully," she shouted over the rumble. "Follow me." They ran through the courtyard, Ralik close behind. The ruins seemed alive, responding to the storm that lingered in the air and the tension between the explorers. Tarek noticed how Myra navigated the broken paths with precision, her instincts perfect for survival. He followed, trusting her completely. At a narrow bridge spanning a chasm, Ralik tried to rush ahead. Myra quickly lowered an energy barrier, forcing him to stop. "You will not pass here," she said. Ralik growled but did not risk crossing. Tarek exhaled slowly, impressed by Myra's quick thinking. "Thank you," he said quietly. Myra nodded, keeping her eyes on Ralik. "We must be ready for anything. These ruins test everyone who enters." Ralik circled around, looking for another path, but Tarek and Myra had already found a safer route through a smaller corridor. They moved quickly, careful not to trigger any unstable floors or loose stones. Along the way, Tarek noticed how Myra's confidence and knowledge complemented his own skills perfectly. Where he calculated and analyzed, she adapted and predicted. Together, they were stronger than any challenge. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber. It was smaller than the last one, but filled with strange, glowing machinery. Tarek and Myra quickly worked to secure the entrance, making sure Ralik could not follow easily. The devices in the chamber hummed with energy, and they both knew that preserving this place was more important than any treasure or reward. Ralik's frustrated voice called out from the distance. "You cannot hide from me forever." Myra stepped closer to Tarek, her hand brushing his lightly. "We do not need to hide," she said. We need to trust each other and protect what matters. Tarek nodded, feeling a surge of warmth. In all the danger, all the uncertainty, he realized how much he relied on Myra not just for survival, but for strength and courage. Together, he said, repeating the word they had both said so many times before. Myra smiled, and for a brief moment, the tension of the day lifted. They worked silently, repairing some of the devices and stabilizing the chamber. Every movement, every glance, strengthened the bond that had grown between them. Outside, the ruins seemed quieter now. Rallick's threats echoed faintly in the distance, but Tarek and Myra knew they had faced worse challenges. And though the ruins held many dangers, they had learned that their trust, their teamwork, and their growing connection were the most powerful tools they possessed. As they settled near a glowing crystal to rest, Tarek looked at Myra. "We faced him together," he said softly. Myra nodded. "And we will face whatever comes next, together." The ruins stretched around them, still mysterious and unpredictable, but Tarek and Myra felt ready. For the first time, they understood that surviving the ruins was not just about courage or skill, it was about partnership, trust, and the bond that had grown between them through storms, dangers, and challenges. And as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the broken towers, they knew that whatever trials the ruins had in store, they would meet them side by side. The sky darkened quickly, faster than Tarek and Myra had expected. Clouds rolled over the ruins, heavy with rain and crackling with lightning. Even after their previous storms and challenges, this one felt different, more intense, more unpredictable. The ruins themselves seemed to tremble as the wind picked up, and Tarek felt a shiver run down his spine. "Myra," he said, his voice tense, "this one is stronger than the others. We need to find shelter fast." Myra nodded without hesitation. "Follow me. I know a place that can protect us." They ran through the corridors, the wind whipping around them and sending loose stones clattering to the ground. The ruins groaned under the storm's force, and lightning illuminated the broken towers, casting eerie shadows. Myra's steps were quick and precise, each movement deliberate. Tarek did his best to keep up, trusting her instincts completely. They reached the heart of the ruins, a wide chamber surrounded by ancient walls and strange glowing crystals. Myra quickly activated a protective shield, and a dome of soft light expanded around them, shielding them from the worst of the storm. The air inside felt warmer, safer, though the sound of thunder vibrated through the stones. Tarek exhaled slowly. "We made it, for now." Myra glanced at him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the crystals. "We must stay focused," she said. "The storm can last for hours." As the wind howled outside, they moved closer together, checking the structure around them. Tarek helped secure loose panels while Myra adjusted the energy shields. Each time their hands brushed, a small warmth passed between them, a quiet reminder of the trust and connection they had built. Hours passed, and the storm showed no sign of stopping. Tarek and Myra took turns monitoring the crystals and devices, making sure the dome stayed stable. The space was quiet except for the sound of the storm and their occasional words. Over time, they began to talk about other things, dreams, hopes, and stories from their pasts. The conversation made the long hours easier to bear, and they both realized how much they enjoyed each other's company beyond survival. At one point, Myra crouched beside Tarek to adjust a small control panel. Their shoulders touched, and for a moment, neither moved. Tarek looked at her, feeling a rush of something he could not name. Myra met his gaze, and in that silent moment, the storm outside seemed to fade away, leaving only the warmth between them. "You are," Incredible, Tarek said softly, his voice barely above the hum of the crystals. Myra's lips curved into a faint smile. "And you are brave," she replied. "I am glad we are here together." The words hung between them, simple but filled with meaning. The storm raged on outside, but inside the chamber, they felt a closeness that went beyond friendship. They held hands for the first time, fingers intertwining naturally, as if it had always been meant to happen. The warmth of their connection seemed to strengthen the protective energy around them. Lightning flashed, illuminating the chamber in bright white light. Tarek and Myra pressed closer together, holding hands tightly. "We can face this," Myra said, her voice steady despite the chaos outside. "Yes, together," Tarek replied, smiling despite the tension. As the hours passed, the storm began to weaken slightly. The thunder became more distant, and the wind lost some of its strength. Tarek and Myra stepped outside the protective dome, feeling the air cool against their faces. The ruins were drenched, glistening under the faint light that filtered through the clouds. Broken towers leaned against each other, and pools of rain reflected the glow of the crystals. Tarek looked at Myra, feeling a deep sense of gratitude and admiration. "We survived," he said softly. Myra smiled, squeezing his hand. "And we learned how strong we are, together." They walked slowly through the wet ruins, careful but confident. The storm had tested them more than any challenge before, but it had also shown them the power of trust, courage, and companionship. Tarek realized that facing storms, danger, and uncertainty was no longer terrifying because he had Myra by his side. As they settled near a leaning tower to rest, Tarek watched the ruins around them. Broken, battered, and alive with history, the ruins seemed to mirror the bond he shared with Myra, resilient, enduring, and full of promise. The night stretched on quietly, and for the first time since entering the ruins, Tarek felt a sense of peace. The storms had brought them together, strengthened their connection, and revealed the warmth of something extraordinary between them. And as they sat side by side, hands still intertwined, they knew that whatever challenges remained, they would face them not alone but together. The ruins were quiet now, bathed in the soft light of morning. The storms had passed, leaving pools of rain that reflected the broken towers and glowing symbols. Tarek and Myra stepped carefully through the wet stones, their movements calm but alert. After the fierce storms and the challenges they had faced, the ruins seemed almost peaceful, as if recognizing their strength and partnership. "This place feels different now," Tarek said, his voice low. "Calm, almost welcoming." Myra nodded, her eyes scanning the ruins with admiration. "We have learned a lot here. The ruins are full of secrets, but also lessons. About courage, trust, and connection." They moved toward the heart of the ruins, where the glowing pedestal and protective devices they had repaired stood proudly. The symbols on the walls seemed brighter now, as if the ruins themselves were alive and acknowledging their efforts. Tarek felt a sense of wonder. "I never imagined the ruins would be so alive," he said. Myra smiled softly. "They respond to those who respect them," she explained. "To those who face danger together, with care and trust." Tarek glanced at her, feeling the depth of her words. Over the days in the ruins, they had faced storms, rival explorers, and countless dangers. Each challenge had brought them closer, teaching them not just to survive, but to rely on each other completely. And in that reliance, something extraordinary had grown between them, a bond of trust, warmth, and affection. As they explored further, they discovered more hidden chambers and machinery, some still humming with faint energy. Tarek adjusted a broken lever, and a small platform shifted into place, revealing a collection of ancient artifacts. Myra's eyes lit up as she examined them. "These tell the story of the builders," she said. "They were not just creators of structures, they were dreamers, thinkers, and collaborators. They wanted to leave a legacy that would teach anyone who arrived here the value of working together." Tarek looked at the artifacts and then at Myra. "I think we understand that now," he said quietly. "In a way, we are part of their story too." Myra reached out and took his hand, her touch gentle and reassuring. "Yes," she said. "We faced storms, danger, and uncertainty. And we did it together." They paused at the edge of a high tower, looking out over the ruins. The broken stones and leaning walls stretched as far as the eye could see. Pools of rain mirrored the sky, and the soft glow of crystals reflected in the water. Tarek felt a surge of pride not just in what they had discovered, but in how far they had come together. "I never thought I would find someone like you here," he said, his voice filled with honesty. "Someone I can trust, someone I can rely on, someone I care about." Myra's smile grew warmer. "And I never expected to meet a human who could understand and share my world," she replied. "We have something rare, something important." The two of them stood in silence, letting the beauty of the ruins and the calm after the storms fill the space between them. Their hands remained intertwined, a quiet promise of trust and companionship. The ruins had tested them, challenged them, and shown them the strength they had in each other. As they descended from the tower, they came across the protective dome they had created together. Tarek touched it lightly. "This dome, it's more than protection," he said. "It's a symbol of what we can do when we work together." Myra nodded, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the crystals. "And of what we have built together," she added. The sun began to rise fully, casting warm light across the ruins. Tarek and Myra walked side by side, exploring areas they had not seen before, marveling at the intricate carvings, the hidden chambers, and the glowing symbols. Every discovery reminded them of the journey they had shared, the dangers they had faced, and the trust that had grown between them. Finally, they reached the highest tower, leaning but strong. Tarek helped Myra climb the last few steps, and they stood together at the top, looking out over the ruins. The wind was gentle now, the storms completely gone. Tarek took a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace he had never known in the ruins. "These ruins, they will survive," he said softly. "And we will remember them, and each other." Myra leaned slightly toward him, her hand still in his. "And whatever comes next, we will face it together," she said. Tarek smiled, feeling the truth in her words. The ruins had tested them, shaped them, and shown them what was possible when trust and courage came together. And as they stood side by side, looking at a world full of possibilities, they knew that their journey was only beginning together, stronger and closer than ever. The storm ruins were no longer just a place of danger. They had become a place of discovery, connection, and warmth, a place where two unlikely companions had found trust, courage, and the extraordinary bond of shared adventure. And as the morning light bathed the ruins in gold, Tarek and Myra stepped forward, ready to explore the world beyond the storms, together.